has been a little bit different than most people. So I come from a metaphysical science background. In my early childhood, my mother was an astrologer. All her friends were psychics, tarot card readers, astrologers. And then I, though, was really into animals. I was obsessed with animals. And so my original degree is actually, I have a PhD in marine biology, zoology, evolutionary biology. So a little bit different than what I was experiencing spiritually. When I was 13, we moved from Oklahoma City to Washington State to attend a spiritual school of enlightenment, where I was learning about higher consciousness, things outside of this physical earth reality, multi-dimensional realities, parallel lifetimes, creating your reality, all those kinds of things. And even though I was experiencing that, I still had to experience hard lessons in this life. So I'm in my fourth career. I have experienced three marriages. The third one, who he was the love of my life, um, just over 2 years ago, so September of 2023, he out of the blue committed suicide. And so that one was like probably the hardest thing that I've gone through in this life, even though a lot of other hard things. And because of the spiritual understanding that I had, I was able to navigate that grief process a little bit differently than what I was observing others out in the world doing. And so I decided to write a book about it. So that came out just last month. And really, what I love doing is sharing about my understandings of how we are multidimensional beings. Even though we're wearing these physical costumes, this isn't who we really are. And so, even like with my husband passing, his physical body passed, but his energy, his essence, his soul is always there. And we can connect from beyond.
My condolences
Thank you.
for that situation. You're welcome because I know that grief grief loss of a person is tough. And what I've sometimes like to ask people, especially if it's let's say a child or a partner, is that not only did they lose a person, sometimes we lose a piece of ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Because the identity of a wife in this case
Mhm.
is you may not feel that you are, even though you still are, right? Or you still were, depending on your situation currently. Did you experience grief identity loss when your partner passed away?
Definitely. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about grief is that it doesn't just have to be loss of a loved one. It can be that loss of identity. And so whether you're changing careers or divorcing or you're an empty nester, whatever it might be. So for me, yes, I was a wife, and after two really toxic marriages and like my whole life of a series of toxic relationships, I was finally in a relationship where I felt fully loved and supported. And so for me, being in that kind of relationship was a new identity for myself for the 8 years that I was with my husband. So when he passed, number one, I had to make sure I didn't take it personal, that, that it wasn't my fault. There wasn't anything different that I could have done. And then I had to rediscover, okay, well, who am I now as this person that no longer is physically, yes, married to my husband Skip? What do I want to do in my life? Who am I here to be? Do I still want to even do the same things that I was doing? And so it was really taking a real deep look at all aspects of my life to figure out, okay, what's working for me, what's not working for me. And I was able to really transform into who I am showing up now over 2 years later.
What advice would you want to give to someone, let's say men and women, because sometimes advice can be different, right?
Mhm.
What advice would you want to give to, let's say, men or women, if it is different, who are in the earlier stages of losing their partner, let's say 12 months or less?
Okay, so number one, if you're in that phase, like my heart is fully with you. And what, what they want us to do is to keep living. And one of the best things that my husband came through from the other side within a week of his passing, what he said to me very clearly was, it's okay to be happy sooner than later. Like time doesn't exist on the other side. And we feel, and society puts this on us, that we are supposed to grieve and go through the grief process in a certain way and a certain amount of time, and people put these like expectations onto us, and you get to grieve in whatever way is right for you. If it is a long process, there's nothing wrong with that. If it's a really short process, there's nothing wrong with that either. And for me, and this would go for men and women, it's just like find something each day that keeps you moving forward. Just one little baby step, something that will raise your vibration just a little bit, that might bring a little bit of joy to your life, whether it's a phone call with a loved one or taking yourself out into nature. For me, the beach is my happy place. So I would go daily to the beach just to ground that energy, and that would help regulate my nervous system. And so self-care is really, really important, and we have total control over that.
I remember, Lisa, in my earlier days when I first interviewed, you don't even want to watch those interviews. They're so horrendous. I'm even embarrassed to bring them up. Jesus help me. But during those days, I remember I interviewed someone who had suicidal ideations. And what he shared is that he saw his father commit suicide as a child, and it traumatized him because he's the one that found
Mm,
his father. When he was going through his situation as an adult, he attempted suicide the same way his dad did.
mm,
What saved him is that his son walked in, and then he started to remember the impact of it on him. And he said that I didn't want to put my son through that because I saw that. And I share that because sometimes there's a sense of guilt or shame with some people when someone close to them has committed suicide, because to a lot of people it's a selfish act. To a lot of people, they feel robbed of the opportunity to maybe intervene or to say something to that person. I don't know if you've gone through this, but if you have, or if you've seen other people go through it, was there any experience of shame and guilt when you decided to open up yourself to the world again after you've experienced this?
yeah, that's a really, really great question. So for me, I knew that I didn't cause it. But what's really interesting is that the week before he did it, we were going through a rough patch in our relationship. And I'm really vulnerable about this in my book that I wrote about this, because I wanted, like, it was very cathartic for me to write out, okay, so yes, we had a great relationship and it wasn't perfect. And so we were going through this rough patch and we were starting to come out of it. But I was leading a retreat. I was actually in the middle of leading a retreat when he did it. And so I wasn't even staying at the house. I had rented condos in our neighborhood that me and the retreat participants were at. And he just, even maybe an hour or 2 hours before he did kill himself, he was texting me that he wanted to come to the condo that night and see me. And he was like, I'm so sorry, we've been through this time, and I want to come see you. And then after the fact, then I was researching, I was like playing detective, trying to figure out what was going on in his mind leading up to this. He had called all his friends and was texting them to make plans for the weekend: pickleball, running, playing golf. He had called our handyman friend to come help him change out the ceiling fans that I needed changed out. He had called a plumber for our irrigation problems. All of this in the time like a few hours before he actually did it. So it wasn't like he was necessarily fully planning it. So it's really weird. He has a twin brother, and he had called his twin brother, who he had to leave a voicemail for. His brother didn't get it till the following day, and his brother just I think really carries survivor's guilt, like because he didn't call him back. And some of his friends are still either really angry or feel like there's something different they could have done. And there's nothing different that could have been done in this situation. So for me, I've had to just reconcile, like, just because we were going through a challenging time, that didn't cause this. There were so many factors that created the perfect storm of the mindset that would uh, let him move through that. The other thing, though, is I am the one who found him. So he did shoot himself. And I'm just glad it was me and not my daughter, because I could handle it more emotionally, in a mature way than my daughter would have been able to, because she's a teen and she already had enough trauma in her life. So it's just, yeah, there's so for me, I have worked through there were elements, the ego gets in the way and wants to create stories. So there were moments of like, okay, did I like really could I have done something different? And what I know is that we all have different exit points in our life, and he fortunately has come through the other side many times to share there's nothing that anyone could have done differently, nothing at all. And so whoever might need to hear that, there's nothing that you could have done differently.
And that's powerful for people to understand because you mentioned that he has a twin brother and there's this thought of survivor's guilt. And then you're the one that found him and you had to come to terms with that. And I'm pretty sure you did your work as well. And I'm really happy you mentioned that for those listening, don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
It's already hard enough to accept that this person is gone. To live a life where you think that you are the cause of it can make your grief period more complex, more complicated, and maybe even prolonged. What do you then think are maybe some of the misconceptions or myths of grief that you'd like to debunk, especially when it's pertains to people blaming themselves?
Yeah. So we being human, we like to replay conversations in our head, actions that we take. We also, so that same brother with the survivor's guilt that I'm perceiving, we don't speak anymore. I had to put strong boundaries, because he was also then trying to blame me and like, what was going on? What's happening? What? And so when someone is in that grief process, really maintaining your own energy field and not allowing people to project stuff onto you, is really important, because people do like projecting, and it's their own stuff that they're projecting. And so really, um, I just the more that those who are in this grief process, the more that you are able to actually feel those emotions rather than stuffing them, rather than compartmentalizing them. And that was one of the beauties is my best friend who is from Washington. She came out to be with me for 3 weeks after. And she forced me to take a break from my business. We went to the beach every single day. She helped me really process those emotions so that I wasn't staying stuck. And I knew I had tools, spiritual tools that I was using as well. And I'm formerly an interior designer, home stager, and so I know how the energetics of space really affect your person. And so there was a lot of clearing that was being done energetically, physically. And so and I was receiving signs, messages from the other side really fast, which helped because getting the information from him, and I knew that, the people that the psychic mediums that I was working with, they weren't just making stuff up about what he was saying. Like they were bringing through his real personality in this human form, things that he was saying. And he was like, I know you're angry with me. This was a really shitty thing to do. I'm really sorry that I left you with this mess. And he was like, I just couldn't do Earth anymore. I couldn't be here anymore, but I can help you more from the other side than I ever could in the physical. And so the more that that was coming through and I trusted it, I was trusting the signs and the messages coming through. It was like, okay, we had an agreement to get so far in this life, and that contract was fulfilled, and that love still is there. Like, I still fully love him, and I have capacity to love again in this human reality. I'm 53 this month, and I have another good probably 50 years plus of life left. So how am I now going to move forward in my life? What do I want it to look like? So it's just baby steps.
I'm gonna say you have another 100 years. Let's double
Okay.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I accept.
Absolutely. You mentioned two things that really warmed my heart. The first one was when you mentioned that you're interior decorator and home stager. And then you mentioned like the energy of space. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language. When I'm having a bad day, one of the first things I do is, okay, I need to change the energy
Yeah.
in here, right? I used to think that was like OCD, but the way you describe it, it sounds like more positive. Not that OCD is not positive, but it sounds like more full of a different type of energy, right? That's what I did because I wanted to be in motion,
Hmm.
but I also wanted to change maybe the dynamic. Like when I was going through something that was really difficult in my 20s, I totally did like a makeover. I grew the beard, I grew the hair, and I was like, I want to be someone that's different. It's like a snake, like
Hmm.
shedding their old skin, right? That's what the transformation felt like, or a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And the second thing that you mentioned is that you're appreciating life and finding different things to do.
Yeah.
I found out new things that I love, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I love this. I couldn't believe because I always like to read, right? So I was like, okay, that's a love of mine. But then I discovered, and this might sound as cheesy as it is, I'm like, I kind of like sushi,
Mm, I love
right?
sushi.
And
Yes.
then I started loving sushi, right? So if I'm having a rough day, I'm like, I'm going to get sushi. It was to the point that people would ask me, like, are you going for sushi today? I guess they could like sense my energy was off. So outside of the beach, then, what are some of the ways that you began to love yourself, new or old?
Oh, well, so at the time, it's not that I was like unhealthy um physically in the marriage, but I was more unhealthy than I am now. So so what I did over the past couple years is I have really changed the way that I'm doing food and drinks, consuming things. I have changed the way that I allow people into my space. That's been a huge one for me because when I was with my husband, he had a group of friends. They were nice enough, but they were not my people. I could not speak this kind of conversation, a deep spiritual conversation at all with any of them. It was just so superficial. And so when we would hang out with them, I felt like I was like, oh, I just can't do this. And I wanted to stop going to things with those people. And we also had some mutual friends, like couple friends that we'd go out to dinner with. And it was the same kind of feeling. It was like, I really, I can love the people as they are, but I don't want them energetically in my field. And so I really curated who came into my life. And that was huge for me to be able to control my own personal frequency, my vibration, so that I could have a life that now is filled with joy. And so just really paying attention to, again, the energetics of the people, of my environment, because clutter creates chaos in the mind. And, when we move the physical objects around, it does change the energy of the space. The people in our life changes our energy because we are the people who we hang out with energetically. We're that frequency, no matter what our willpower is trying to do to overcome that. And so I really, and even recently, had to look at that again. It's like a regular curating of my space of, okay, is this really filling me up, or is it depleting my energy? Is this something that brings me joy and happiness or not? And being willing to let go of the things that no longer support us and the people that no longer support who we are here to be in our highest form.
Yeah, spring cleaning and decluttering is not only for the house.
No, it's not.
Right. No, no. Yeah, it extends to people too.
It does. It does. And even like what you're consuming in terms of the news, the media, and being in the really like back and forth political arena, that is so pervasive I know in Canada and the US and elsewhere in the world. I mean, there's so much going on, and whatever we're focusing on, that energy is coming into our space. And so really, like um I don't watch any of the news. I stay out of the media. I fully stay out of politics. And that was something that my husband, he was really into. And I would tell him, you can't talk to me about this stuff, but it would still be on in the background. And it was still part of the conversations he would have with his friends when we were out together. And so, again, even though like I miss him deeply, I miss that companionship. Um, I actually am thriving in a way that I wasn't before his passing. As hard as that might be to say, and even for people to hear, I really am thriving.
Some people will have difficulty hearing that
Mhm,
for, I would say, for two reasons. The first reason, they know it's true.
mhm.
Right? Let's be honest, right? They probably want to say it, but they
Yeah,
can't,
yeah.
right? And some people may not be. They're like, "Oh my God, how can they say that?" Well, I look at my family, and there's some people that, and you said this earlier with some of the peer group, some of the people in your peer group or your former peer group. I get along. I go along to get along, right? When I see them, hey, how you're doing? After
Mhm.
that, good Lord, I need a detox.
Yeah,
Right? And
right.
that isn't bad, that's honest, because the reverse of that would be to lie,
Yeah.
not only to ourselves, but possibly to them, even though we don't really care if we lie to them, but we're lying to ourselves, more importantly, lying to others. When you mentioned that you're curating some of your experiences and who you have around you, did you do some of that for yourself as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's like, okay, who are the people that bring me, like, do I have fun with? Because we're here to have fun. Earth is so dense and can be so challenging. And, it's like the PhD level of school out in the universe. And so when we remember that it's okay to laugh and to have fun, and that's part of what we're here to do, then for me it's like, okay, who brings that into my life, who enhances that, who helps me raise my vibration, who helps me maintain a healthy lifestyle of the foods I'm eating, or getting out and moving my body, and you know all of that, because as you know, that all affects our mindset, and the mindset is what creates what our physical vessel is going to express. And so if we are compartmentalizing emotions, we're, we're stuffing them down, we're not processing them, we're not regulating our nervous system, the body will create illness. And so, one of the things that I have done for myself is really work my healing skills. I've gone to practitioners, but I have my own process that I do that has really helped me, and it's made my ability to work with my clients even stronger as well. And so I just yeah, I spend a lot of time here alone at my house, which um, I'm looking to change that a little bit, but it is nice because I get to really be in my own happy environment.
Al- Alone or lonely?
Alone. Now, I
Okay.
will say there are moments sometimes of loneliness because I just became an empty nester too. And so the day that my book came out is the same day my daughter, who's 19, moved out into her very own place. And so I am a very proud mama, and that was a change of identity as well, of like, okay, I'm no longer mom who's taking care of everything here. Now I'm still mom, and she's needed me in the last month that she's moved out, but it's very different dynamics. And so the house, like I even changed bedrooms after she left. I'm renting out. I've got a whole studio apartment connected to my house. So now that she's an empty nester, I'm renting that out. It's got its own private interest, so I could still have my own space if I need it. Or if I like the person, maybe that's companionship. Who knows? And though when I feel lonely, then I reach out to my friends and I'm like, hey, let's go get dinner or let's go to the beach. So I know that I get to actively control whether I when I'm in that lonely kind of period, there are things that I can do to alleviate that.
I'm happy you share that because what I try to do, and the reason, this is why I asked the question, is I think for a lot of people, we experience being alone, which is fine. You're in your own
Mhm.
thoughts, you can self regulate, self soothe, and so on. And then we're like, okay, I'm feeling I want to be around people, right?
Yeah.
I've come to the point where I can actually start to predict when I'm going to start feeling that way. And what I've noticed is I start scheduling certain, let's say, dinners with people, right? And the only reason I notice this, Lisa, and I'll share with you, is that I put everything in Google Calendar.
Mm.
So I'm at the point where now, because it's the same, let's say 5 or 6 people, I just go in the month before, duplicate, and just change the dates. What I found is I was hanging around with certain people around the same time of the month,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Do you see any coincidences in the people that you reach out to, or when it comes to you regulating yourself and you starting to notice patterns like that?
Well, now that we're in the holiday season, I definitely have a pattern, but well, and it's interesting because so my birthday is in December, and so the whole month of December is this big holiday. For me, it's my birthday month, and not that I celebrate, Christian Christmas, but I do celebrate the holidays. I've got my lights and my tree and all the fun things. I love the lights. That brings me joy. And so I always have a birthday party for myself because I know this time of the year, whether my husband was here or not, it's the time of the year where, as a kid, because of when my birthday falls, everyone would be on Christmas break. It was always like, happy birthday, Merry Christmas. And so as an adult, I made it a point like, no, I'm going to celebrate my birthday. I mean, it's a human thing, but I'm going to celebrate it. I'm going to bring together my friends that I love and be in this joyous part. So I always do have a birthday party of some sort. But in terms of like the rest of the year, I don't really have phases, although fortunately, I usually get to see my best friend here on the island. I get to see her weekly. Only there are moments where she's off island or something where in fact in a couple days she's leaving for maybe 3 or 4 weeks to go off island. So I'll be calling in some of my other friends, but um, seeing her, and she's the kind of energy, the kind of frequency that I love being around. And so that weekly just getting together with her is huge for me.
Always make sure you get 2 sets of gifts, birthday and Christmas. Right. I always feel bad for people born in December because, to your point, they probably have that battle, right? Well, the Christmas gift is your birthday gift. It's like, no, no, no. I want it. Unless I was born on the 25th, I want my birthday and my holiday gifts, right? Earlier, you mentioned energy, and it seemed like that was like very important to make sure your energy was right, not only yourself, those around you. And then you touched on spirituality. How important is that to you and perhaps the people that you work with?
In terms of the spirituality.
Yes.
Okay. So I personally have been on a spiritual journey my entire life. And so understanding who I really am, I'm way more than this physical earth, Lisa. That has been huge for me in, even though I've gone through a lot of hard things in this life, not taking it so seriously, because it's not that it's not serious, but we feel all of this earth reality. It's so real. It's so like um people can get into the minutia of it rather than the expansion of like, wow, I am connected to all. I am connected to all on earth. I am connected to all through the universe, to source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. And we have infinite realities that we live. We are at the quantum level, all timelines exist simultaneously. And we have all of these infinite lifetimes that we can tap into to gain the wisdom, to access abilities from those different lives. And even in this human experience, we have timelines existing simultaneously that we're shifting in and out of all the time, depending on what choices we're making. And so, energy, where one's vibration is, that is huge in terms of what timeline you're experiencing, what your reality that you're creating. And so, when you know that you're more than just this one earth life, more than this physical avatar reality, this game that we're playing, and they have given me over and over that this really is a game that we play. And when we know it's a game, then we can play it better, we have more control over that. And so now I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What can I do? What do I want to go explore? And so really that energy, it creates the reality around us. And so we're either consciously creating our reality, which most people are not, or they're on autopilot, unconsciously creating their reality.
I'm a big movie fan, and what you described reminded me of the movie The Matrix,
Yes.
right? Where you think it's a reality, but there's so much more deeper. And then there are those who realize it's not real, but they don't want anyone else to realize that it's not real, right? When you share that, how can then someone identify the type of energy that they're surrounding themselves with, and hopefully they can maybe move better throughout their life?
So I would say take a look at different aspects of one's life. So take a look at your relationships with your family, with your friends. Are they healthy relationships? Is there good communication? Is there emotional understanding? And if not, you get to change who's in your life. Even family, like I've had to distance myself from certain family members because when I'm with them, like it is a major drop in energy. They just have a very different outlook on life compared to me. And I don't want to be in that lower vibrational, fear based reality. That is not what I'm here to do. And then take a look at, okay, take a look at your home, the things around you, take a look at your finances, take a look at your health. And if there are parts of these different aspects of your life that you're like, oh, I'm not very healthy, or I I've got all this clutter and this stuff in my house, and then you don't have the finances, you're like, okay, well, maybe those finances went to creating this clutter and this stuff that's not supporting me. So really being honest with yourself first and foremost about how your different parts of life really are expressing themselves. And if there's a part that you're like, oh, yeah, I could do that better. And for me, relationships, that's been the biggest thing over and over and over that when I left my second husband, I realized I was the common denominator in all these relationships that were not good for me. And I learned a lot though. So I thank them for that. And so I did deep dive healing in myself so that then I could meet someone like my husband, the third one, to have that love and support. And so even though that relationship obviously didn't continue past the 8 years, I still like that healing that I did is still fully anchored in me. And then again, like I when he passed, I was like, okay, my body isn't as healthy as it could be. I was maybe drinking a little too much with him. I was eating foods that I wouldn't normally like eat that were supporting me. And so just making little changes can have huge, huge ramifications in making your life better.
That's courageous that you're able to do that because I find it very difficult. I find some people find it difficult to take a moment and analyze their contribution in their life, especially when things aren't going well. Do you see a lot of people struggling with that?
I do. I do. Well, and a lot of people they want to put blame externally on other people or things that are they feel like they're happening to them instead of for them. And every person that comes into our life, we might perceive them as like a hero or a villain or even neutral, but they're there as a teacher. Where they present a mirror to us of something that we can learn from. And so when we start actually getting really understanding of how this earth reality works, how our soul agreements work with these different players in our life, including our family. I come from a not healthy family. And so when we start really teasing this apart and understanding it at that deeper spiritual level, then really that is where the change can be made. You can't change what you don't know. And so one of my former spiritual teachers, he always had a saying of you can't see red in the rainbow if you are in the red. You have to be outside of it. And so really you do have to come outside of your personality, your ego, and really take a higher perspective look and be willing to make the little changes. Could be mindset, it could be even just, again, what you are consuming food wise, media wise, friend wise, whatever it is.
Yeah, it does take time. And the mirror, and I'm looking to my right and I'm looking at the mirror right now, full body, it shows more than just what you're wearing, right?
Hmm.
Like a lot of us have to be able to look in the mirror and see not what is on the external, but what's internal. What do I have to
Yeah,
do? And I get it. Like accountability, it's tough, right? Because if we wanted to, we can find something to tell us how great we are, even though behind us we're just leaving chaos and destruction,
right.
right?
Exactly. Well, and that's where, like for me in my adult life, I have always had mentors and coaches because they're external to me and they can help me see my blind spots, whether it's in business or my personal life. And so I have an amazing coach mentor that I've had for the last 10 months now that she fully sees me energetically. She sees those blockages and she calls me on my stuff and I'm like, "Thank you. This is what I'm paying you for." Because I am one who always wants to do that deeper dive. Um, I did go through many years where I wasn't looking deep within. I was just doing the external life. And that was fine, but it wasn't fulfilling. And also, I was having issues, a lot of health issues. I was having relationship issues, business issues. And so, the more that I clear stuck emotions, stuck trauma, then that allows me to be in a higher frequency state. It allows me to really come from a true place of love for humanity, and all the hard experiences that I've gone through has given me more compassion and empathy for people, because before I experienced hard stuff, I would judge. I would be like, why would someone stay in an abusive marriage? Well, I went through one and I understand how people can get stuck in that and how then they can get out of it. So I've been through like the financial crash, filing bankruptcy and rebuilding. I've been through multiple career changes, relationship changes, having the kids. Now I'm an empty nester. Like I've gone through all the different transitions in life, and there are more to come. And navigating that, I have enough evidence that I'm going to survive and I will thrive no matter what comes my way.
Yeah. The hope is always you survive and then you thrive. Right? You
Yes.
don't want to survive for forever. And you raised a fantastic point where some people say that, oh, if I went through that, I would just leave. Let's say if it's a relationship or if it's a job or whatever the situation is, right? And then when they go through, they stay in it longer than the person that they told to leave.
Yes. Well, and because we get really comfortable in what we know, people have so much fear of the unknown, even if that unknown can be like amazing, right? But they would rather, it's more comfortable to stay in the discomfort because it's predictable. It's all of that. And so when we are willing to step, even if there's fear, into a new path, a new direction, beautiful things can unfold. Like things that you would never even be able to imagine can start unfolding for you, where you're creating a completely different life, a different reality. And it just takes those little baby steps in that direction, and the things will start to appear in front of you.
Yeah, you have that toxic family member, that toxic friend, that toxic relationship, that toxic job. You're in it
Mhm.
for a period of time. My mind, body, and soul got used to it. So I'm
Yep.
comfortable. You show
Yes.
them something that's peaceful, that's healthy, like, oh my God, I don't know this. What if I die? Right? In their mind, it's
Yeah.
so unknown, it's so foreign that it begins to maybe scare them. Do you think that's maybe a self worth issue as well?
I don't think it's I mean, it can be self-worth. Yeah, it's multifaceted. It can be self-worth, lack of love for oneself, but it can also just be trauma of, okay, well, this has happened to me, and not processing those emotions and knowing that there is something better. But the ego, the mind really loves fear. Like it gets caught up in the fear, and that can be paralyzing to people. But fear, it's not that we shouldn't have fear, because most people naturally have some fear or another, and that can come in different flavors. But when we're able to walk through the fear, or take the step despite the fear that's there, that's where the magic happens. And so it can be about like, I'm not worthy for that, but it can also just be like, that doesn't feel safe because I don't understand it. And so that's not worth, that's just like the body physiologically reacting to the unknown. And and there are people like you, like me. I love this show that you have of helping people navigate these ideas.
Yeah, conflict. Thank you for that. And it wasn't even paid. So I do appreciate that. Right. I want to make sure I acknowledge that. I didn't want to sound like a jerk. But conflict resolution is something you'll learn the most. Like when you're in a relationship, you learn the most about your partner through the conflicts you resolve.
Hmm.
But we have to take that a step further and say, what about the conflicts inside of us? To your point, right? You need to
Hmm.
resolve what's going on. It could be that I'm not worthy of peace, happiness, and 150 years of life. Or it could be that I just don't understand it because my baseline is always chaos and drama. Or
Yeah.
it could be that growing up, this is all that I saw. I saw the abuse, I saw the trauma, I saw the conflict, I saw everything, and no one resolved it, right? So it could be, you're right, it could be a number of things. And I
Mhm.
just wonder sometimes, it must be tough to take a moment because I'm looking back on mine and I know you've gone through this. It wasn't easy for me to come face to face with what I was going through and have that conversation with myself. It
Mhm.
wasn't easy for me to say that I want to change it. And it definitely wasn't easy to walk that path of change,
No.
right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's not easy to have that mirror held up and we're like, "Ooh, okay. Do I like that about myself? Do I like that thing I'm thinking or that behavior I'm doing? Oh, no, I don't. So do I want to change it? How important is it for me to change?" And that's where really it's like sometimes it's like, "Ah, whatever. It's good. I'm who I am." And other times it's like, "Oh, okay, it's actually really important to for me to succeed in this next thing that I want to do. I do actually really need to change this certain thing, this behavior, this mindset, whatever it is." And I even went through this recently myself, my coach, my mentor, she had a very hard conversation with me in terms of something that we've been working on for the last 10 months. And she's like, "We've done everything in this area. The only thing that is holding you back, that is coming in, is this specific thing. How important is it for you to achieve what we have been trying to do? Like, is it important enough that you're willing to give this up or change this?" And so I had to really look at myself and be like, "Am I willing to do that?" Well, actually, I am, because energetically, I've been putting so much attention here, and financially, and all the things, like all that energy in whatever form I have been putting towards this. I actually do really desire this in my life. And so it's worth letting this go. And that meant letting go of a certain dynamic in a relationship that I was having, and some behaviors with that person that were going on. And that was just, again, just recent in the last month. So it's a regular, I'm always doing it. I am not perfect. No one's perfect. I'm an onion, deeper, deeper, deeper layers. And the more that comes up like that, and even there was a feeling that I thought I had resolved in myself of the unwantedness. So this is really interesting because in the womb, my mother never wanted kids, and she knew exactly when I was conceived because she was on the verge of divorce with my dad. It was at my aunt's wedding. Love was in the air, and whoops, here comes Lisa. Well, so when I was in the womb, though, and this, I was born in 1972. So, in that year of 72, abortions were a thing, but my mother, she wouldn't have done that, but she was actively doing everything she could to get rid of me otherwise. Smoking, drinking, doing all the things. And so already in the womb, I was being imprinted on that I was not wanted. And what that did was it created the cycle of people leaving me, not wanted, being abandoned. And so even when I wrote my book about my husband, that deeper layer of being unwanted came up again. I thought it was like, well, of course he wanted me, but then no, it came up again when I'm editing the book because those feelings they were deeper, deeper, deeper. And it stemmed again from being in the womb with my mom. But him checking out the way he did and the timing that he did, there was a little aspect in my mind that was like, you weren't worthy enough. You weren't lovable enough. You weren't wanted. And so, again, deeper layers that come up that navigate, it's how we navigate our relationships. So I've more clearing. So, yeah. So that mirror thing, I get that a lot.
Some people think that it's a journey that is a lifetime. It's a
Yeah,
lifetime journey.
it is. It is. And even in that, we have to have humor. Like we can be like, okay, yeah. And one of the things that I really help people with is trying to get over their judgments of themselves, the guilt, the shame, the perfectionism, all of that, because we are here to be human. No one is here to be perfect. If we were, we would be ascended masters. We wouldn't even come here to earth because we don't need to. But we come here to experience forgetting who we are and going through these emotions, all the things that it is to be human. And so when we realize, okay, there's no right or wrong in any of it, and we can let go of the judgment of ourselves, that's when we can start letting go of judgment of other people. And so that's part of what I'm here to help people with is because I've had to let go of my own judgments of myself in all aspects. And it's always a work in progress.
Lisa, let me ask you one final question before I let you go.
Okay.
I want to give you three wishes, and you can wish for three things that you want people to know about this question. Okay?
Okay.
A
Let me
little
see if
bit
I
different.
okay, let me see if I can fit this in.
What are three things you wish people knew about letting go of judgment and why?
Okay. So judgment keeps us stuck, it keeps us limited from accessing our greatness in this human reality. And so if we carry the guilt, the shame, things like that, what it's doing is it is creating illness in the body. It's creating you not understanding how beautiful your essence is, your soul is. It's keeping you from fully coming from a place of love and compassion and empathy for humanity and for everyone's experience here on earth. And so again, like the more that you and some people are like, well, it's selfish to do all this self-care and this healing. Actually, beautiful. Yeah, it's selfish, but it also then is serving others because the more that we're healed and healthy and our highest vibrational light, then we can give to others more freely. We give more